You can feel it before you can name it, the way she doesn't turn toward you when you walk into the room, the way her body stiffens slightly when you touch her arm, the way her laughter once easy, once constant, now feels reserved, as if she's rationing it. You tell yourself it's stress, work, exhaustion, hormones, anything but what you know deep down. She doesn't want you anymore, not hate, not anger, just absence. You lie beside her in bed, separated by a few inches that feel like miles. You remember how it used to be, how the air between you once felt electric, how her touch once made you feel seen. Now it's cold, now it's quiet, and the silence says more than words ever could. You try to rationalize it, it happens to everyone, you tell yourself. All marriages cool down, but what's between you isn't cooling, it's rotting, it's the slow decay of something that used to feel alive. You reach for her and she doesn't pull away, but she doesn't lean in either. That's how you know it's worse than anger. She's compliant, not connected. She'll go through the motions because it's easier than explaining the truth. Her desire died and she doesn't even remember when. You look at her across the table one night and realize you're strangers with history. The love is there, somewhere, buried under years of routine and noise, but the spark, the heat, the pull, the hunger, it's gone. And here's the part that cuts deepest, she didn't choose for it to die. Desire doesn't vanish by choice, it fades by erosion, by all the small things left unsaid, by the little moments you didn't think mattered, by the familiarity that replaced curiosity. You still love her, maybe more now than before, but love isn't the same as wanting. Love is safe, desire is risk, and she doesn't feel risk with you anymore, she feels security, and security kills the very thing that built the attraction in the first place. You can't remember the last time she looked at you like she used to, that quiet hunger in her eyes, that glow of wanting. Now when she looks at you, it's soft, kind, like the way you look at a photograph of something you've already lost. You think about saying something, asking her, reaching for the truth, but you don't, because if you do, she might tell you the one thing you can't unhear, that she still loves you, but she doesn't want you, and once that truth is spoken, you can never go back to pretending you didn't already feel it. The death. Desire never dies loudly, it doesn't explode, it evaporates, slowly, invisibly, until one day it's gone and you can't remember the last time it was there. She doesn't wake up and decide she no longer wants you, it happens piece by piece, moment by moment, a slow unthreading of connection that neither of you notice until you're already living in the aftermath. It might have started years ago, the first time she opened up to you and you brushed her off without meaning to, the first time she reached out for closeness and you were too tired, the first time she shared something vulnerable and you didn't understand the weight of it, each time something tiny broke, and the breaks added up, you wouldn't have seen it happening, you were living life, working, fixing, providing, doing what you thought a man should do, but what she wanted wasn't survival, she wanted aliveness, she wanted mystery, tension, surprise, she wanted to still see the man who once made her feel something uncontrollable, but over time you stopped being that man, not because you changed for the worse, but because she learned you too well, she memorized your habits, your moods, your patterns, there was nothing left to discover, and when curiosity dies, attraction suffocates with it. She'll tell herself this is normal, that long-term relationships aren't supposed to feel wild anymore, she'll convince herself that love is enough, but her body knows the difference, her body knows what it feels like to be wanted, and it knows when that feeling's gone. She still loves you, maybe even more deeply now, but love isn't what makes her pulse quicken, it isn't what makes her reach for you in the dark. Love comforts, desire disrupts, and she's grown addicted to comfort, so the relationship settles into something still, something calm, something manageable, and in that stillness, desire suffocates. She doesn't even realize it's dying, she just feels less passion, less joy, less urgency to touch, to connect, to reach out, and by the time she notices the emptiness, she's already learned how to live with it. You'll sense it, of course, you'll feel the temperature drop in the room when she looks at you, you'll feel her body tense slightly when you touch her shoulder. You'll ask if something's wrong, and she'll say, "No, I'm just tired," but it's not tiredness, it's loss. The version of her who used to ache for you is gone. She didn't leave in anger, she didn't make a scene, she just faded quietly into the background of your shared life, and when you finally notice, it'll already be too late, because you can't save something that dies without a sound, you can't fix what you never saw breaking. That's how desire ends. Not in fire, but in silence, and the silence is worse, because it feels like peace when really, it's death wearing a calm face, the drift, The drift begins the moment she realizes she can go a day without reaching for you. It's not dramatic, it's subtle, she just stops needing you. She doesn't mean to pull away, it's instinct. People always move toward what feels alive, and right now you don't. You feel safe, predictable, familiar. The very things she once found comforting now feel heavy. You notice her laughter changing. It's brighter when she's around others. It's effortless when she's on the phone, or with friends, or lost in her own world. But when she's with you, it's quiet, filtered, careful. You start realizing she no longer tells you everything. You used to be her first thought when something exciting happened. Now you're an afterthought, a summary at the end of her day. She shares things with others first, because somewhere along the line, she learned that you don't really listen anymore. It's not that you don't care, you do, but your caring comes through logic, not empathy. You try to solve things, you try to fix her mood instead of feeling it with her, and without realizing it, you taught her that she has to hide certain parts of herself to keep the peace. So she does, she hides, she filters her words, she chooses silence over vulnerability, routine over risk. She becomes polite with you, and polite is what desire sounds like when it's gone. You think she's being distant, but really, she's protecting herself from disappointment. Every time she opened up and felt unseen, she built another wall, and now she lives behind them, smiling, functioning, pretending, but no longer inviting you in. You start noticing her independence. At first you admire it, you tell yourself it's a good thing, but then you realize she's building a life that doesn't need you to feel complete, and that realization stings, because once someone learns how to live without you emotionally, it's only a matter of time before they stop needing you physically. She still loves you in her way, but she no longer turns to you for comfort. You're not her home anymore, you're her habit. You share space but not energy, you share time but not connection. You might not even notice the drift at first, because it doesn't look like chaos, it looks like calm, like a couple that just gets along. But that calm isn't love, it's quiet surrender. She's not angry, she's just done trying to make you see her. She's decided to save her energy. She'll still smile, she'll still say love you, but inside she's already gone. And here's the truth you don't want to face. Once a woman gets used to feeling alone beside you, she'll never crave closeness again. That's the drift, not separation, but adjustment, not hatred, but acceptance. The moment she learns to live without your presence while still standing right next to you, the distance, there comes a moment when you can feel it, not just sense it. The distance, it's no longer subtle or hidden behind politeness. It's visible in everything she does. She's still there, in the same bed, under the same roof, but the atmosphere has changed. You used to breathe the same air, now it feels like she's holding hers. She's near, but unreachable. Her presence has become absence with a heartbeat. You start noticing the little things, how she doesn't make eye contact when you speak, how her answers have become shorter, quieter, how she scrolls through her phone at dinner without even realizing you're watching. It's not defiance, it's escape. You reach for her hand while walking through the store, and she lets you hold it, but her fingers don't move, they stay limp. Polite, like she's letting you hold on out of mercy, not want. You still try, you ask her what's wrong, you plan dinners, trips, conversations. She smiles, agrees, even thanks you, but you can feel it. She's performing affection now, not feeling it, and performances don't last long. You start to realize you don't make her laugh anymore, not really, not the kind of laughter that shakes her shoulders or lights up her eyes. She laughs at work stories, at her phone, at shows on TV, but with you. Her laughter feels recycled, polite echoes of what used to be, and here's the cruel truth, she doesn't even miss the closeness. That's what happens after a certain point. She's not yearning for you, she's adjusting to life without that part of herself. She's not waiting for you to change, she's accepted that you won't. You'll start to sense it physically, the way her hugs linger a little less, the way she turns her back before you've even settled in bed. You'll tell yourself she's tired, but no. This is what distance feels like when it finally makes itself at home. She doesn't hate you, hate would mean she still feels something. This is different, this is numb, and numbness is irreversible. Once it settles deep enough, you'll catch her looking at you sometimes, not with anger, not with affection, just observation, like she's studying a version of life she once believed in, and when you catch her, she'll look away quickly, because even she doesn't want to face how far she's drifted. You'll feel like you're living beside a memory, someone who once wanted you, once needed you, but now just knows you, and that's the real killer of desire, familiarity. Once she knows everything about you, there's nothing left to discover. She's not cold because she's cruel. She's cold because warmth takes energy, and she's tired of giving to something that no longer feeds her. And so you learn to live with the distance. You pretend it's temporary. You convince yourself things will bounce back. But the truth is, this is the bounce back. This silence. This stillness. This is as close as it gets now. She's not leaving you. She already did. She just forgot to pack her body when her heart moved out. That's the distance. Not space between two people, but a silence that looks like peace and feels like the end. The resentment. Resentment doesn't start with fury. It starts with disappointment that never found a voice, with small wounds that never healed because no one noticed them, and that's where she is now, quietly collecting proof that you failed her. She doesn't mean to do it. She's not sitting there plotting revenge. It's more subtle than that. Every time you brush off her feelings, every time you half listen when she talks, every time you promise to change and don't, she files it away. At first she gives you the benefit of the doubt. She tells herself he's just busy, he doesn't mean it. But after years of telling herself that story, she stops believing it. She stops defending you, even in her own mind. Now every small thing becomes evidence. You forget to text her back. Proof you don't care. You glance at your phone during dinner. Proof you're distant. You make a small joke at her expense. Proof you don't respect her. It doesn't matter that you didn't mean any of it. Resentment doesn't measure intent. But now just knows you, and that's the real killer of desire. Familiarity. Once she knows everything about you, there's nothing left to discover. She's not cold because she's cruel. She's cold because warmth takes energy, and she's tired of giving to something that no longer feeds her. And so you learn to live with the distance. You pretend it's temporary. You convince yourself things will bounce back. But the truth is, this is the bounce back. This silence. This stillness. This is as close as it gets now. She's not leaving you. She already did. She just forgot to pack her body when her heart moved out. That's the distance. Not space between two people, but a silence that looks like peace and feels like the end. The resentment. Resentment doesn't start with fury. It starts with disappointment that never found a voice, with small wounds that never healed because no one noticed them, and that's where she is now, quietly collecting proof that you failed her. She doesn't mean to do it. She's not sitting there plotting revenge. It's more subtle than that. Every time you brush off her feelings, every time you half listen when she talks, every time you promise to change and don't, she files it away. At first she gives you the benefit of the doubt. She tells herself he's just busy, he doesn't mean it. But after years of telling herself that story, she stops believing it. She stops defending you, even in her own mind. Now every small thing becomes evidence. You forget to text her back. Proof you don't care. You glance at your phone during dinner. Proof you're distant. You make a small joke at her expense. Proof you don't respect her. It doesn't matter that you didn't mean any of it. Resentment doesn't measure intent. It measures accumulation. You see, women don't usually explode with anger. They sink into it. They drown in it, quietly. It becomes their atmosphere, the way they breathe around you. And once resentment becomes her comfort, you stop being her peace. Now she speaks to you differently, not cruelly, just colder. Her tone carries a quiet judgment, a sense that you're already guilty of something she won't name. You ask what's wrong, and she says nothing. But you can feel the everything in the way she exhales. She doesn't yell anymore because yelling takes hope. Yelling means she still thinks you can change. Silence means she doesn't. She'll still smile in public, still post pictures, still play the role. But behind closed doors, her energy is flat, and everything you do feels like too little, too late. And here's the cruel irony. You might finally start trying just as she stops believing in your effort. You start showing up, being present, doing the things she once begged for. But it doesn't move her, because to her it's desperation. And desperation doesn't create attraction, it kills it. You'll see it in her eyes, that flicker of pity when you try too hard. She doesn't want to hurt you, she doesn't even want to punish you, she just wants to feel nothing, because feeling nothing is safer than risking pain again. Resentment, once it settles, becomes identity. She'll bond with her friends over stories of your indifference. They'll tell her she's strong, patient, misunderstood. And she'll agree, not out of pride, but out of relief, because the narrative finally makes sense now. You're the reason she doesn't feel alive anymore. You might try to fix it, but you can't reason with resentment. It doesn't want solutions, it wants distance. So she stays not because she believes things will get better, but because she's found her version of peace in disappointment. You can live with that peace too, but it will never love you back. That's what resentment does. It doesn't destroy the relationship, it just empties it out until all that's left is duty, and the quiet heavy weight of things that were never said. the silence. Eventually the fire burns out completely. No arguments, no raised voices, no late-night conversations that end in tears. Just quiet. A silence that fills the room and never leaves. At first the silence feels like relief. You tell yourself the worst has passed. No more tension, no more conflict. But it isn't peace, it's the sound of two people who've given up trying to be heard. She doesn't complain anymore, she doesn't ask for change, she doesn't bring up the past, and that stillness feels comforting until you realize its emptiness. She's not happy, she's just unexplaining why. You talk less now. The conversations that used to stretch for hours have turned into logistics. Did you pay the bill? What time are the kids coming home? Can you grab milk on the way back? That's all you share. Information, not intimacy. It's enough to keep the machine running, but not enough to feel alive. At night you lie next to her, each of you facing different directions, the space between you heavy and familiar. You don't touch her anymore, not because you don't want to, but because you've learned that touch no longer leads anywhere. It feels like an interruption now, not an invitation. She falls asleep easily. You stay awake listening to her breathe, trying to remember what it felt like when that sound brought you comfort. Now, it just reminds you how far away she is. Even when she's right there, you start mistaking silence for stability. You tell yourself, we're fine, we're not fighting. But the absence of fighting isn't healing, it's distance. You've both grown so used to not being heard that you stopped speaking altogether. The silence has become your language. It fills the mornings when you sip coffee together without words. It fills the car rides, the dinners, the couch. You can sit beside her for hours and never say a thing, and that used to mean comfort, now it means disconnection. Sometimes you catch her staring into space, not sad, not angry, just gone, lost in her own thoughts. You want to ask what she's thinking, but you already know she won't tell you, not because she's hiding anything, but because she doesn't trust you to understand anymore. You try to start small conversations, little jokes to break the tension, but she smiles faintly and goes back to her screen. She's polite, always polite, because indifference wears the mask of kindness. You think she's content, she isn't, she's calm. And calm at this stage isn't love, it's survival. That's what the silence is, a survival strategy, a way for two people to coexist without tearing each other apart. It's efficient, predictable, and utterly hollow. You both start living as actors in a story that ended long ago. The lines are the same, good morning, love you, sleep well, but none of it carries meaning anymore. They're just echoes, words spoken out of habit, and that's how it goes, not with heartbreak, not with chaos, but with stillness that stretches into forever. She doesn't miss the passion anymore. You don't miss the arguments, you both miss the people you used to be, but neither of you knows how to find them again. That's the silence. It's not the absence of sound, it's the quiet realization that the story ended, and neither of you said goodbye. Conclusion. One day you'll wake up and realize the ending already happened. There was no moment, no announcement, no breakdown, just a slow unwinding until all that was left was this. You'll sit across from her at breakfast, watching her pour coffee, scroll her phone, adjust her hair, and it'll hit you. You're watching a stranger perform the role of your wife. She'll smile at you, the same soft practice smile she's been giving for years, and you'll smile back. Because that's what people do when they've agreed to keep pretending. There's no anger anymore, no tension, just the quiet routine of two people who stop trying to make each other feel alive. You'll talk about bills, errands, plans, but never about what really matters, because that would mean reopening the wound, and neither of you has the strength for that anymore. She doesn't expect much from you now, and that's the part that hurts. She doesn't need you to change, or grow, or understand. She stopped hoping for more, and when hope leaves, love becomes maintenance. You'll still catch glimpses of what used to be, a familiar laugh, a glance across the room that feels almost warm. For a second you'll think maybe it's still there, but it fades as quickly as it came, because memory can mimic desire for a moment, but not sustain it. You start realizing she's not staying because of you, she's staying because it's easier than leaving, because the life you built together, the home, the rhythm, the identity, feels too heavy to dismantle, and you'll tell yourself that's love, but it isn't, it's inertia. She's found peace in distance, and you've found comfort in denial. You don't touch her much anymore, and when you do, it's brief, a kiss on the cheek, a brush of the hand, enough to look normal, enough to keep up appearances. At night you lie beside her, and the silence feels softer now. You've learned to live with it. You've convinced yourself that this is what long-term love becomes, and maybe that's true, or maybe it's just easier than admitting it's over. You think about what might have saved it if you'd listened more, if she'd stayed open longer, if either of you had been brave enough to face the truth sooner. But then you remember endings like this aren't caused by one failure, they're built by thousands of small ones, each unnoticed, each survivable. Until suddenly, the weight of all that survival crushes what used to be passion. You both still care, you both still wish each other well, but that's not love anymore, it's kindness, and kindness is quiet. It doesn't hold you, it doesn't make you feel wanted, it just lets you drift gently toward the rest of your life, without making a scene. That's how it ends, not with betrayal, not with rage, not with final words shouted in the dark. It ends with understanding, with two people who used to be everything to each other, now sharing space like ghosts who forgot how to leave. And someday when you look at her sleeping beside you, you'll realize she didn't stop loving you, she just stopped needing you to make her feel alive. And that's a kind of ending no one warns you about. It's not tragic, it's not dramatic, it's just quiet, like a candle burning down to nothing, until all that remains is the faint scent of what used to be fire.